Hello everybody, this is Busaloman and this is the part 2 of the Dark Souls lore playthrough. So unfortunately, the original part 2 of Dark Souls 1, the lore run, got kind of corrupted and I was forced to replay the first part of the game and the tutorial again. And we got this little character over here. He's called Dr. Simon, but you can't see the sinus because he's kind of black right now. But anyway, I got this dude over here and I played the game again till this point. And as I said in the previous part 1, we're going to read some items. Let's begin with the Demon's Great Hammer, the weapon that the Asylum Demon dropped. Demon's Great Hammer, demon weapon built from the stone arch trees, used by lesser demons at North Undead Asylum. This hammer is imbued with no special power, but can merely beat foes to a pulp, providing you have the strength to wield it. So this gives us our first information in the game about the stone arch trees. The stone arch trees are at the beginning cinematic shown at the very start, and they are mentioned that they coexisted together with the dragons before the Age of Fire, before even the start of time. When the fire started time in this universe. So these stone arch trees are pretty important because they existed way before the flame. And something to note is that that specific weapon, the Demon's Great Hammer, was used by the lesser demons that we have seen. The Asylum Demon was a lesser demon from the North Undead Asylum. So what we can assume is that the other demons used or use still some weapons made from arch trees, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to read only the important lore items. Not every weapon or item, not every item drops lore information, so I'm gonna read only some specific ones that have lore implications or straight up tell you the story. Pyromancy Flame. Flame medium used by Great Swamp Pyromancers. Pyromancers arouse this flame to produce various fire arts. Equip Pyromancer Flame to produce pyromancy. Attune pyromancies from a scroll at bonfire. Most pyromancies have limited numbers of uses. So what we learn here is basically that pyromancers come from the Great Swamp or are inhabitants of the Great Swamp. We don't really see the Great Swamp in the Dark Souls games, but we kind of see what the environment looks like at the Great Swamp, and we are going to get more info on that later. And since my other part 2 got corrupted, I didn't get the Black Knight sword from the Black Knight earlier, but I managed to get the Black Knight shield, which also has the same description as the Black Knight sword. So let's read the Black Knight shield. Shield of the Black Knights that wander Lordran. A flowing canal is chiseled deeply into its face. Long ago, the Black Knights faced the Chaos Demons and were charred black, but their shields became highly resistant to fire. So basically what this tells us is that the Black Knights long ago had pretty much a war with the Chaos Demons. And some of them got destroyed, and some of the Black Knights got burned and charred black from the Chaos Demons. So that pretty much means that they either lost the fight or they won and had heavy casualties. So pretty interesting information as well. Now let's read some armor pieces. Tattered cloth robe. Robe worn by pyromancers of the Great Swamp. Though it appears tattered, it is actually quite strong. Their attire offers substantial protection against poison, fire and other forces of nature out in the hinterlands where they were driven. And this pretty much tells us that the pyromancers got driven out of their home and they were forced to go in the Great Swamp, where they modified their clothing against the forces of nature that existed at the Great Swamp. So pretty much poison, fire, and other forces. Fire is mentioned here for a specific reason. We're going to see later where that is. Estus flask. The undead treasure this dull green flask filled with Estus at bonfire. Fills HP. The Estus flask are linked to the firekeepers. The dark tales also make reference. An emerald flask from the keeper's soul. She lives to protect the flame and dies to protect it further. By that we learn that the firekeepers are pretty important to this whole cycle of bonfires and undead curse and revival. They are there to protect the flames and assist the undead, any undead, in their quest to solve the crisis that is the undead curse, that is also linked with the bonfires and the fading original flame. Gold pine resin. Rare pine resin which emits golden sparks, applies lightning to right hand weapon. Affected weapon inflicts rare lightning damage, making it effective against targets which are resilient to both magic and fire. Very effective against dragon family foes. So we already got a hint towards that because Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight and God of Sunlight in the Dark Souls universe, he pretty much, against the dragons when he fought them, he never used fire-related spells or incantations. He pretty much said miracles. He used only lightning-based miracles. And it is pretty interesting because dragons are weak against lightning, not fire. Soul of a lost undead. Soul of a lost undead who has long ago gone hollow. Used to acquire souls. Souls are the source of all life, and whether undead or even hollow, one continues to seek them. And as it is said here, souls are the source of all life, which means that everything that came after the flame has a soul. So this is pretty important, the most important information. Humanity. Rare tiny black sprite found on corpses. Used to gain 1 humanity, restore a large amount of HP. This black sprite is called humanity, but little is known about its true nature. If the soul is the source of all life, then one distinguishes the humanity we hold within ourselves. So this distinction is pretty important because humanities, they appear only on humans. So that's pretty important to hold on because as we have seen in the starting cinematic, the ancestor of humans, the pygmy, got a specific soul, a specific lord soul in comparison to the other lords of fire. Dark sign. The dark sign signifies an accursed undead. Those branded with it are reborn after death, but will one day lose their mind and go hollow. Death triggers the dark sign, which returns its bearer to the last bonfire rested at, but at the cost of all humanity and souls. Blue Tearstone Ring. The rare gem called Tearstone has the uncanny ability to sense imminent death. This blue tearstone from Katarina boosts the defense of its wearer when in danger. Katarina is a certain kingdom in the Dark Souls world where we are not going to see it directly, but we are going to get lots of references and people that came from Katarina throughout the 3 Dark Souls games. So that's pretty much it about Katarina. Titanite Shard. Titanite Shard for weapon reinforcement. Most common Titanite material reinforces standard weapons to +5. Titanite shards are fragments of the legendary slabs. Titanite is etched into weapons to reinforce. Pretty standard stuff there. Titanite Shank. Titanite Shank for weapon reinforcement, not found outside of Lordran. Reinforces standard weapons to +14 and crystal lightning weapons to +4. With the discovery of Shanks in Lordran, the race to locate the legendary slabs has begun. But could they be mere myth? Twinkling Titanite. This weapon reinforcing Titanite is used with a particularly powerful energy. Reinforces weapons that cannot be reinforced normally to +5. After this Titanite was peeled from its slab, It is said that it received a special power, but its specific nature is not clear. Big Pilgrim's Key, key to the inner door of the Undead Asylum main hall. Big key belonging to a chosen undead pilgrim, but this chosen undead knows not what this pilgrimage has in store. So this pretty much confirms that there are multiple chosen undead, and this item description is one of those that directly reference the player. And those item descriptions are important because in the other Dark Souls games, the player is referenced directly, and lots of people get confused and get it as a lore in general plot point. There is lots of confusion with the direct references to the player throughout the Soul series. So that's important to note. Fireball, standard pyromancy of the Great Swamp. Hurl Fireball. The fire damage caused by fireballs makes them effective against corporeal beasts and undead, who by nature fear flame. That's also something to note, that the undead fear flame. And the black separation crystal we are going to mention shortly, because first we're going to need to talk to this lovely NPC that's just below me and has more info on the PvP and PvP and what the implication has in the world of Dark Souls.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time. Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind.
So, with that, this guy is called Solaire, and he pretty much comes from a different world, as he says, and as an undead, he got attracted by Lodran because he wants to find his own son, and what he means with son is his own purpose as an undead in the world. And that pretty much means that he came here to kindle the fire because, as we're going to see later even more, is that the undead all come here in Lodran to be the chosen undead that rids the world of the undead curse. And he pretty much tells us what's the story behind the co-op and how the actual function of co-op and PvP is explained in Lodran. So how it works is that people from different times, from either the past, the present, or the future, get all mixed together in one timeline because time is convoluted because of the fading flame, and time isn't running as it should be. The fading flame makes the past, the present, and the future get mixed together, so lots of people from those times get mixed together in one timeline and they interact with each other. like they are in the one present time. And that all happens because the fading flame is a cataclysmic disaster. It's an apocalypse, to say the least, for the Dark Souls world. Without the original flame, nothing functions. Time and space is related to the fading flame. Without it, there is nothing. And that's pretty much implied here. And we're going to see later more information on that. But as for now...
Oh, hello there. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
And as for now, we get some positive comments from our friend here, Soler, who only sees the bright side of this dark world. So he's a pretty nice NPC. Pretty nice NPC. He replaced pretty much the story of Oscar for the first part, who Oscar was supposed to be the Soler of this game. So we're going to see Soler a lot in this game. And since we are here, this door is not openable right now. And if you had the master key, we could proceed through it here. But since we are playing, again, the game legit, we are going to go the intended way through this bridge over here. And we need to be careful here on this bridge, because as you see here, you might expect an ambush, and you are actually correct. This is not an ambush, but this is an unfortunate event that is called the dragon, or the drake, better said, from Iliel, comes back here and stays at the gate that you are meant to go, forcing you to change your route. But since we were fast enough and we weren't destroyed from the dragon, we can actually go down here, and if you have already noticed, this place looks familiar. And it is familiar because this is the Undead bonfire. This just was our first shortcut of the game. Those shortcuts are common in Dark Souls 1, but not so much in Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 3. In my opinion, it's one of the stronger attractive points of Dark Souls 1, the shortcuts and the interconnectivity of the levels of the game. So, as you see here though, this character is a little bit more leveled than our Mr. Severus Snape, the other character that we used, and our part 2 corrupted. This guy is a little bit more powerful because our next boss is a pretty difficult one if you are a low level one, so I would suggest to be level 30 plus to actually beat the next boss. Something to note though before I go my way through this door is that if you go right here above, you force the dragon to actually fire at you, and with that way you get lots of souls for early game. That's a pretty nice area that we are going to use now for a little while to actually farm souls early on. It's a farming area for quick souls early on. So with that said, I'm actually going to farm a little here in this area, and I'm actually going to buy some items from our lovely vendor that is down in the Undead Parish. So I will be back shortly. So after we grind it a little and got ourselves to dexterity level 12, which is important, we go here to this vendor.
Still keeping your marbles, then go ahead, never hurt.
go here, this vendor, and actually buy from him the short bow, which is important, and more than 20 large arrows. I would suggest buy around 40 or 50 because we are going to get a weapon that's
cheated, right? You.
because we are going to get a weapon that's equally as good in early game as the Black Knight sword, but a little bit more underpowered and underpowered in the late game as well. This weapon is called the Drake sword, and I'm going to show you how we get it shortly. But before that, we are actually going to get in an area in Undead Parish that I actually forgot that we didn't do last time. So to get there, you actually jump here. There is a hollow, but don't fear. You should be fine with your elves. Out here. Drop here, and there is an ambush. This ambush shouldn't worry you that much. Altogether, this area is pretty optional, I would say. You can snipe that guy out of there and beat those guys relatively easily. So this item is rubbish, which Snuggly the Crow from the tutorial actually gets those, and if you drop them correctly, and it gives you some neat items. Now we go over here the ladder, over there, and as you have seen there is another item down there, but first get this humanity, which is neat, and we are going to get that other item as well. So that item is pretty missable because the ladder to get to that item is here. Don't remember it's barricaded, but it should be here. So you go up the stairs, you normally do in those type of situations, to get upstairs, and you get your Soul of the Lost Undead. And here is the cat entrance. Cat entrance to this area. I don't know if it was supposed to be cat or something, but it looks that it should be leading to somewhere else entirely, not just be here for some humanities and Arabic item. But anyway, let's actually attempt to get the Drake sword from the Drake at the gate. So I will be right back. So to actually get the Drake sword, you actually need a bow and some arrows. As I said, more than 20. More than 20 if you can get your shots right. I would suggest personally to get 40 or so. And then, to actually get the Drake sword, you actually need to go down here, down from the main road of the bridge, and you need to be careful because there are some hollows here. Not as careful as I am, as you see. You need to be more careful than me, and you need to actually be careful with that one because lots of people die against him. now that he is out of the way and you cleaned the area so you can be undisturbed, you actually equip your arrows, your large arrows by the way, you equip those and aim at the tail of the drake as lower as possible as you can, and then when the timing is right, you aim and you throw. 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 You aim and you aim and you throw, and you aim, you throw, like this. You hit the drake on its tail, it gets upset, and it walks for a little above your head, because it thinks that you are in the main road, and it goes back to its position, and then you shoot him again. And you do this for 20 or so times, and the drake sword should be yours after that many of times. But you need to be careful to not actually, you don't need to miss like I did. You actually need to be careful to not hit the drake, to not hit that drake way too high on its tail, because you can accidentally, don't pay attention at how many arrows you shot at the drake, you can actually kill the drake, and you are going to naturally miss the drake sword as well. So be careful on that one. So give me a little bit to actually get my 20 shots, and once I am done, I'm going to be back. And that is the drake sword. That's how you get it. So as you see, I wasted 30 or so shots. I'm not the best with a bow, and that's why I suggested for you to bring more arrows with you. And besides that, there's a graphical glitch over there. So that's neat. Thank you, Dark Souls Remastered. You might be asking now, why do I have so many humanities on me? Because I actually tried to get the Black Knight sword through that way, because as you see, the more humanities you have, the more liquid humanities you have, the higher your discovery of items is. So that means if you want a rare item, you're actually going to need to have more humanities, more liquid humanities on you to boost your discoverability. And with that said, we are actually in the Undead Parish. So we now have two ways where we can go. One is up there in the tower, which I would honestly not suggest to newer players, because at the end of the tower there is another Black Knight. And it's a pretty difficult fight in comparison to all the others, because you fight him in a close quarters location. And you actually need to be pretty precise with your parries. And he has a great weapon as well, a great sword. So the actual only way we can go is this way straight out where that weird looking hollow is looking at me. Behind me, this door is actually the gate that the Drake protects, and if we are fast enough, and I wouldn't suggest, you can actually run below the Drake and lit the bonfire, and if you do that, and there is Mr. Simon in all his glory, and if you do that, you lit the bonfire and this gate opens. This gate opens, and you can actually have a resting point here and actually go your way. But since we are playing the game as a newer player would, we actually are not going to do the whole running below the Drake to lit the bonfire and have another checkpoint in the Undead Parish. We are actually going to lit that bonfire later because at that door over there is a lore item that's important to read and actually see the location there. But for now we are going to go through here. Say hello to this hollow man, exactly. And as we see here, that's another ambush. I equipped the bow right now because as you see that hollow there, when I step forward he is going to see me, and directly after that he's going to go there where the stairs are and actually close that gate, prohibiting me going even further to the Undead Parish that's behind there. And you could say, and you would be correct, that this is an ambush. It really is. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it way too much. If you are careful here, you are going to be alright. So bear with me. First defeat that hole over there, then go upstairs. As you kept seeing, that hollow goes there and closes the gate, as I told you guys. And after the melee hollows are done, you actually then deal with the arrow hollows that are both. Be careful not to lock on the bow right there, because if you do, you're going to fall down. You actually have another pseudo boss fight to worry about. And we don't want that, right? So I took some damage over there. Some needless damage, but that boar down there is actually a pretty easy opponent to defeat, because as you see, this area has those pyres that they made to actually defeat undead, and we're actually going to use them in our advantage and lure the boar on those pyres, and he actually gets damaged by those. And that's actually how we are going to defeat him, and how you are actually intended to defeat him, because those pyres are here for a reason. For what the lore application is on why those hollows are actually prohibiting you on going on the Undead Parish, I'm not sure, because they should be mindless hollows. But we are going to get some implications later that all the hollows have something to do with what it is called here the Abyss. And the Abyss is actually the opposite of the fire. But as for now, it's just random information for you, but later it's going to play a major role in the game's lore and world building. You can actually shoot him up here with arrows, but I wouldn't suggest that, because first you're going to use lots of arrows, and second, those arrows are pretty expensive to get in this game. Pretty expensive, and you are going to need your souls and your soul management. And we actually got him in the fire. And you see lots of damage. That's how you do it. So this boar, I believe, is artificially done, but a certain inventor that we are going to see in the late game. We already have seen him in the opening cinematic, but I'm not going to spoil who that is. We're going to see that later. But that's the boar. That was the boar fight. Pretty easy if you know what you're doing. But once we are done here, you see this hollow man, he runs away from you because he runs for a purpose. This is an ambush. And Dark Souls 1 is full with ambushes. I need to be careful over here because imagine you are a newer player and you don't know what you do. You actually fight the boar above, and after that you don't have any essences, you have nothing, and you actually come across those guys, which are actually, funny enough, one of the tougher opponents in Dark Souls 1. And you should be thinking, aren't the armored cores more dangerous than those guys? As you see, not, because they do lots of damage, they stagger you, and they are the most possible ones to defeat you. So be careful around those guys when there are many of those like they are now. Some here. Yeah, see, lots of damage. You need to actually be careful what type of weapon you are using. For myself, I usually use straight swords and bastard swords that we're actually going to fight later. But I almost never use axes, like the one that I'm using right now, because I personally like my swords, and the big swords at that. And there we go. And as you see, here is an item. So we need to actually be careful here, and we got a soul of a lost undead. So before we go above, we're going to go above first, because I believe there are a couple of hollows still left. Never mind, there are none. Don't be scared from this fog gate. This fog gate is just for the next area to reload, to actually get the enemies properly and that type of stuff. So you are going to find lots of those fake boss fog walls in this game, so don't be scared about those. We actually got two items, actually three, with the ones that Soler gave us earlier, and a fourth one where we didn't read it because we needed first the stone from Soler. But we are going to actually read the Alluring Skull first. Alluring Skull, a skull with meekly lingering souls. Throw to scatter and spread souls to attract certain types of enemies. Souls are concentrations of life, and the life-starved hollows and the life-starved hollows are lured by its power, not effective for all enemies. So this means that only the life-starved hollows and the undead want the souls, and for that particular reason it's only effective against undead, hollows, skeletons, etc. We're going to see skeletons later. And for that reason it's not effective for all enemies, because contrary to Dark Souls 3 lore, not everything is undead in Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2. Not everything comes back to life after you defeated it. So that's a big misconception for lots of YouTubers, lots of lore runners, that everything in the world of Dark Souls is undead. It really isn't. So we got that out of the way. Pretty important item to know for the lore of the games. And here we have the rubbish item, rubbish with no value. Who in their right mind would bother carrying this around? Perhaps you need help. And this is another time where the item descriptions actually talk to you, the player. That happens certain locations in Dark Souls 3 as well, and it caused lots of confusion. White Sign Soapstone, the item that Soler gave us. Be summoned to another world as a phantom through your sign and defeat the area boss to acquire humanity. Hollows cannot conduct summons. That's pretty interesting. In Lotran, the flow of time is distorted and the White Sign Soapstone allows undead to assist one another. So only hollows that retain their humanity can summon other hollows, other undead that haven't lost their humanity, to actually help one another through this convoluted time, through the bonfire. Hollows that have lost their souls and actually need souls, they can't do that, apparently. This black crystal, long a symbol of farewell, is granted to banished undead. The crystal sends phantom back to their homes or sends back to yours. Beware of frequent use of this item if you intend to nurture relations. So that pretty much tells you that if you want to have relations with other players in this game, don't actually drop them within the summon. It's kind of a bad move if you summon a player and he helps you through a level and then you don't reward the other player with the boss souls if you have already summoned. Or in PvP, don't remove those players right about before they get lots of souls. Drake Sword. This sword, one of the rare dragon weapons, is formed by a drake's tail. Drakes are seen as underdeveloped imitators of the dragons, but they are likely their distant kin. The sword is imbued with a mystical power to be released when held with both hands. So this is a pretty important item because it shows us the distinction between dragons and drakes, and later we are going to see another distinction between snakes and dragons. So there are different stages of dragons, and here in this item it shows us the distinction between drakes and dragons, where they are decently related but not the same. So it's very important. It was very important in the first pitch of the Dark Souls 3 storyline, and it was very important from the start with Dark Souls 1, as you see right now. The Drake Sword, it was always important to know the distinctions between the various members of the dragon family in Dark Souls world in general. So with that said, we can actually move to this area. And this area is a little bit more difficult than the areas we have visited so far. It's still the Undead Parish, but it has those type of hollow enemies, the heavy armored hollow enemies. And you might struggle with those guys, but I would suggest to actually parry them when you can. They can actually parry you as well, so I'm actually waiting for him to do the first attack, like this one. The first one I didn't parry, but you actually don't let them actually drink the esters. They can actually drink esters as well, which is pretty dangerous. Don't let them drink any esters. And now we got the Night Shield. A pretty nice shield for early on. Night Shield. This medium metal shield is elegantly carved and painted. Although it is thought to have been used by ancient knights of the nobility, its defense capabilities are similar to other shields. So it's pretty much an imposter shield, but it's pretty nice nevertheless to have. It's actually as strong as the Black Knight shield without upgrades. It's neat. It's definitely not bad, but it causes us to kind of fat roll, and fat rolls are really important to keep in mind. You actually want to either medium roll or fast roll. You never want to actually fat roll because you are going to have lots of problems in these games in general. Especially in Dark Souls 1 because the fat roll is really unbearable. So once you are done with that one, you're actually going to get in another ambush. So you need to be careful. There is a hollow on my left side and actually an armored hollow knight on my left side, and on my right side there is another hollow knight. And that's why I use the shield. And parry that guy after we have missed lots of parries, but that isn't really important. And they drop Titanite shards, which are pretty good for your upgrades for your weapons. Now we have two options. We can either go to the gate that was closed for us earlier, or we can go straight through here, and we're actually going to land on another ambush, funny enough, but that's the last one, before the bonfire. And it's actually, I would say, not that difficult of an ambush. Not really an ambush, they actually protect the Undead Parish. But they are still kind of difficult to deal with if you are a new player, of course. Or if you are low health, they can be a little bit bothersome once you get here. So now, the first thing you are going to do once you are here, you are not going to go through the Undead Parish, right here, the Undead Cathedral, the Undead Church. You're actually going to go through this way first, because we are going to play it safe. Go through this way. Those trees around here are a reference to an area that comes once you are here. And since you are already heard it, there is a blacksmith here. And it is a pretty well-known blacksmith through the Dark Souls series. But first we're going to get here on this bonfire, and since we have 15 liquid humanities, we're actually going to kindle this bonfire so we because why not? We're going to use it quite a lot because it connects two important areas. And I'm not going to level up because I'm actually going to upgrade a weapon for the boss fight that comes right up, and I would suggest for you to upgrade a weapon as well for the boss fight. And this is our boy Andre. He appears in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3. In Dark Souls 1 he might be your main swordsmith, blacksmith, and I talked way too much. We are actually going to talk to him.
Well, you must be a new arrival. I'm Andre of Astora. If you require smithing, then speak to me.
Fun fact, Andre is the only NPC in Dark Souls 1 with lip sync. Funny, isn't it? He actually comes from a early development time of Dark Souls 1, and he's one of the not so rust NPCs. He actually might be the most fully thought NPC in this game, with his quest line and more of it, but lots of his quest line got cut early in development, but he's still one of the most finished NPCs in this game.
Most weapons and armor are mighty sturdy indeed, but every hunk of metal has its breaking point. If you notice durability running low, it's time to repair. You can ask a blacksmith like myself, or do it on your own with a grindstone. The nice thing about weapons, they never betray you, so pay them a little respect, eh? There are two types of weapon forging. There's reinforcement and there's ascension. Reinforcement is simple. It strengthens the weapon and nothing more. A simple task for any blacksmith. Hell, you could even do it yourself with a smith box. But Ascension's a finer art. It alters a weapon's properties. Ascension is the territory of we blacksmiths. A smith box just won't do the trick. Start out with reinforcement. When that loses its charm, you can consider Ascension. As you've noticed, this land is flush with the mad and wicked. You won't make it through the night without employing my services. You can forge armor just like you do weapons. Forging armor is even easier than forging weapons. Whether you forge weapons or armor first, well, that's up to you. But nobody wants to see you go hollow. So whatever you do, you'd better do it well. You can forge armor, just forging whether you but no, so what?
Funny enough, with Andre, we don't know much stuff about his whole backstory, etc. Don't know that he comes from Astora. Astora is another kingdom that's referenced in the Dark Souls series, but we never actually see it. But that's him, and as you can see through his chest,
I'll be seeing you there.
he's actually
Be
undead as
careful
well,
out
like
there.
us. And you can actually see why, because the undead they don't have green hair on their chest. The undead have something that looks like roots once they are close to following. But Andre here is pretty strongly implied to be an undead, and the only reason why he isn't losing his soul and he isn't going mad for that reason is because he is way too focused on his blacksmith, his only true love, blacksmithing. Now, this door goes to another location, which is pretty important for the DLC of the game, reinforce a weapon. And something with the Drake sword is that you can only upgrade it with dragon scales. Dragon scales are an upgrade item that we're going to see later, but I would heavily suggest not to upgrade it because you are not going to get much out of it either way. The only situation where the Drake Sword is good is at the start of the game until I would say level 50 or 40 max, and afterwards all other weapons are better, pretty much better than the Drake Sword. The Drake Sword doesn't have any scaling with your leveling. That means if you level your strength or dexterity, that Drake Sword isn't going to get nothing out of it. While your short sword or any sword for that matter are going to get a boost from your leveling scaling. For now I'm going to actually upgrade the battle axe to +2.
Don't get yourself nut.
+2, and I'm actually going to attempt
You need
the boss of the area. I'm actually going to repair my armor. I really don't have to do it, but just it is. You can actually purchase some titans through Undead, and here you get a weaponsmithing box where with it you can actually upgrade your weapons through your bonfire, and an armor smithing box. The repair box we actually got on the other character, Mr. Severus Snape, but in this character I haven't bought it yet. I'm not going to bother buying the weaponsmithing boxes just yet, but I would actually suggest you do that once you get the souls, perhaps after the boss of the
Don't be
Undead
seeing you
Parish.
then. Be careful.
So Andre, as you see, is one of the friendliest NPCs, but after this friendly NPC, perhaps the friendliest, we are going to actually find the actual second friendliest NPC, or perhaps the friendliest, as I said for Andre. And this is here, this man, which is known online as Onion Bro. He thinks way too much here.
Oh,
Whoa.
forgive me. I was absorbed in thought. I am Siegmeyer of Katarina. Quite honestly, I've run flat up against a wall, or a gate, I should say. The thing just won't budge, no matter how long I wait. And oh, have I waited. So here I sit, in quite a pickle, weighing my options, so to speak. Still closed. Still closed.
But this gate is going to open right now. It's only going to open once the 2 bells of awakening are ranked. So Sigmar here pretty much stands waiting for no reason, and he doesn't know why. As an undead, because he's an undead as well, he came here and doesn't know what to do. Because of the Crestfallen Warrior, we know exactly what we have to do with the bells of awakening. And because of Oscar wants us as well. Not every undead had the information that we did for our journey. But every undead that came to Lordran wants to be the chosen undead. That's the funny part with the whole chosen undead story. Everyone is the chosen undead until one chosen undead finally can ring both of the bells of awakening in their respective world because of the fading flames, because there are different timelines. I'm actually going to go back to the bonfire because I'm actually going to use the bottomless box that I got earlier. In comparison to the repair box, the bottomless box is actually pretty important in lower playthrough. You can actually use the bottomless box, remove items that you don't want in your inventory, such as straight sword hilts, broken straight swords, etc. You can actually keep those in storage for when you need them without actually throwing them away. And we're actually going to do that right now. We don't actually want our inventory full during the boss fight, because that can certainly happen. Get your inventory full during the boss fight, and you are going to miss some weapons if hit the maximum capacity of your inventory. So we want to actually avoid that, and you should as well. Always store the needless items, the items that you don't need, in the storage. That's why we buy it, and it's actually more important right now to me as well. The longsword. Longsword is a pretty nice weapon. I'm not going to lie. Actually, I'd like to actually use it. But since I upgraded my axe, I'm going to stick to this weapon for a while. And this is a reference to the Tower Knight from Dark Souls 1. It is a reference to the Tower Knight from Demon Souls. And in Demon Souls he was actually a boss, a pretty lore important boss as well. But in this game he was reduced to actually a mini boss type of encounter. A major enemy encounter, I would say, not even a mini boss. And yeah, that's pretty much him. He dropped an item, that much neat. And that guy was pretty much here to protect that corpse over here. As you see, this corpse, this whole church is pretty much a mausoleum for certain characters, the Firekeeper souls. It's a mausoleum for a Firekeeper. And once you get that item, don't confuse it as a consumable soul, because as it says in its description, the Firekeeper soul, its Firekeeper is corporeal manifestation of the bonfire and a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. Her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity and can boost the power of precious Estus flasks. It can be used to gain humanity and restore HP at the cost of losing the Firekeeper soul to reinforce the Estus flask. You actually reinforce your Estus flask with it. And if you actually consume it right now, you're actually going to get some souls out of it. But it isn't really worth it. Your Estus flask is more important than a couple of souls. So don't actually press use item. Understood? Understood. And now that we have that out of the way, up there we see a guy with a trident, and that guy is actually a wizard. He's a wizard here indeed. That guy, when I go close to him, he's going to buff all the enemies that are in my vicinity. So if I go below him where those armored hollows are, they are going to get buffed and they are going to be a pretty bad encounter for me. If I go through here, which I'm actually going to go, through these stairs, he's going to power up the ambush that's been waiting for me upstairs. But before we are going to do that ambush, because that's actually the way you are supposed to go, we're actually going to go through here to get this elevator. And now you are going to think, Why? Why are you going to the elevator? We actually go somewhere else where you're supposed to be. And that's precise the reason, because you might already guess which area this is. This is Firelink Shrine. This is one of the areas where we could have gone from Firelink Shrine, but this elevator was inaccessible and it's only operational once we go to the Undead Parish and we actually call it down and do what we have done here. So we are back at the Firelink Shrine and we see this particular NPC, which is quite a shady one. You actually see him through his face. So let's actually talk with him.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
Thoroland, by the way, is only mentioned in Dark Souls 1. I don't believe it was mentioned in Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 3, which is a bummer because it plays kind of a significant world building role in Dark Souls 1, and we are going to see why that is just shortly.
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
This copper coin is actually one of the most important lore items which everyone forgets about when they talk about Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, the lore. The lore YouTubers, all of them forget about this item, and I'm not even extravagating. It's really that important. We're going to see why it's important right shortly.
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you?
Actually, it would.
Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods.
We actually haven't gotten any covenants until now, so that's fine.
Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith.
We want a gesture, and we actually get the Shrek gesture, which pretty much implies that this guy is up here for no good. Isn't a pretty nice character? So let's talk a
My
little bit more with
companions are
him.
Milady and her young knights. She is young, but burdened by an undead mission. We are her defenses, to keep her from harm.
They're actually all undead in his court, and they are the only ones allowed to be here from that squad, as he talks about.
An undead mission? Regrettably, I cannot share that with you. But you are my pupil. Perhaps if you show your faith.
He's actually a scumbag. If you have less souls, he's actually going to request less souls, but it's always half of your souls apparently. Kind of half of your souls. We're actually going to press yes now for lore reasons, but if you are doing that alone, don't actually pay the souls to this scumbag.
Very well. I can surely tell you, of all people, undead clerics are given a mission to seek kindling. Kindling is the art of feeding bonfires with humanity. Through kindling, we shall one day be granted magnificent powers.
And that's pretty much what all of them deads do. They are here to kindle the original fire, not just any bonfire, all of them. If you kindle the original one, you kindle all of them. But those particular guys want us to waste humanities on some random bonfires. But the main objective of the undead is the original fire. The fire in the killing of flame, as it's called, one of the last areas of the game. But we can
Very
actually
well.
talk to him.
I can surely
Yeah.
tell you, undead clerics are given a mission to seek kindling. Kindling is the art of feeding bonfires with humanity. Through kindling, we shall one day be...
By the way, humanity is strongly now implied to be actually a soul that actually boosts the bonfires. It isn't the opposite of the bonfires. It isn't anything that's separate from the flow of the fire. It's pretty important that he made this distinction here. And it's pretty nice that we actually heard him. So we can actually get some items through him, but now we don't actually have the souls for that. I would suggest to actually get homework from him, but I believe we can actually get homework later for a lesser price, and this guy is actually here to scam us. So we are not going to get anything from
Come
him.
again. The effectiveness of the teachings depend upon your faith.
Yeah, we are not actually going to get something out of this comeback. And yeah, we're actually going to read now the item that he gave us. Because in my opinion, it's one of the most important items for lore reasons in Dark Souls 1, and it's really important in Dark Souls 3 to actually understand the story and the story perspective in Dark Souls 3. Copper coin. Coin made of copper. Its face shows Old Man Macloif, god of medicine and drink. Even coins of great value in the world of men have little value in Lodran, where the accepted currency is souls. Those who dream of returning to the outside world are fond of carrying this around. So the outside world uses coins as a currency. By outside world, they mean the world outside of Lodran, because Lodran is the actual place where the gods live. We're going to see later where that is in particular, and all of the undead gather around Lodran or in Lodran to actually rekindle the original flame. And because of that, they actually deal with souls in Lodran. The accepted currency is souls in Lodran. So that means not everyone in the world of Dark Souls is undead. And the other thing we get through this coin is that there is a certain Old Man Macloif, which is the god of medicine and drink, which is funny because this is the actually last time we actually hear of this god of medicine and drink. He doesn't appear in Dark Souls 2, which is understandable because Dark Souls 2 is an entirely different story. But what's insulting is he doesn't even get mentioned in Dark Souls 3, which is a direct sequel of Dark Souls 1. So he is a forgotten god in Dark Souls 3, and from what it appears, he is actually pretty important. And you surely need to know that gods in this universe, the god race, because it's a god race in this universe, they don't actually die through aging. So he should exist in Dark Souls 3 by the time we actually play it. But there are lots of gods mentioned in Dark Souls 1 that don't even get mentioned in Dark Souls 3. And it's not even unimportant gods, it's really important gods. Like the guy now, like the god of medicine that we read now. Those aren't mentioned anywhere. And it actually bothered me when I actually played Dark Souls 3 the first time after I had played Dark Souls 1 initially. Lots of people confuse the undead statements that this coin made. Lots of people confuse that in Dark Souls 3 all of people are undead and all things are undead. But in actuality not everything is undead in Dark Souls 1, and it was never stated that everything is undead. And it's... this coin man makes Dark Souls 3 pretty much uncanon. And it's really a shame. But that's a different story about Dark Souls 3. And we're actually going to talk about Dark Souls 3 once we are going to play it. Because I'm planning to actually play all 3 of the Dark Souls parts. So we need to actually wait a minute. As you see, that guy, right now because I am near him, he actually boosts the ambush. The ambush that was waiting for me. That guy can actually shoot me as well. And I believe this is one of the times where I should actually use my pharmacy glove. Because he is actually powerful. I didn't want to do that, but I can do. I don't know if he one-shots me. Something to know about this guy is that he actually doesn't respond once you actually beat him. And he actually jumped like Mary Poppins right now. I haven't seen that one before, so that was strange. Those hollows, once they are buffed through his magic, they actually do lots of damage. And I'm actually lucky right now that the time of his buff actually got finished. And he didn't drop his weapon, which is unfortunate. Because it's a fun weapon. Not a strong weapon, but a fun weapon. Didn't drop anything, and he stuck to me. Thank you. He left. And that's the ambush. That's a really bad ambush I was talking about. And once you are done with the ambush, you can actually go here and get the soul of a large undead. That was a large undead, was it? Let's check. Soul of a lost undead. Never mind. And if you go straight forward to this door over there, you are going to find an armored hollow and he's going to attack you. And there is a particular NPC we're going to see later. Now that I have cleared the area of the magician over here, I'm actually going to get the hollows below for actually for some souls to get a level up before the boss fight. And I'm actually going to get back to my bonfire. Careful in this area because you can actually die with this armor. Always try to parry those. Parrying this game isn't as difficult. Balderrama, pretty nice. Isn't as difficult as in Dark Souls 3, so you can actually train parrying I would say train pairing in this game. As you see, I am not that good with the Parish myself. And there you go, that's the last one. And once we are done with those guys, we actually come to the gate that was closed by this meme hollow over here. That scaredy cat saw us and closed the door on us. So he's going to pay with a back turn. Thank you. And that's the basement. I believe that key opens another area later. And it is the area we are supposed to go. And clearly gives a hint in its item description. Basement key. Opens a narrow passage leading below at the far face of the great breach in the Undead Berg. The tower, the lower Undead Berg, is a treacherous place. Do not turn your back on the wily thieves or the wild dogs who serve the Capra demon. The Capra demon is actually one of the most notorious bosses in this game. He's notorious because he's pretty hard, I would say. Not in particularly the boss is pretty hard, but the area is pretty hard where you actually fight him. We're going to see him later. Actually, I would say after the boss that we are going to do right now. I'm not even sure if I can actually beat that boss on one try. Last time I attempted, it took me 4 or 3 times, but it's hit or miss with that boss. It's hit or miss with that boss because it can either be pretty difficult for you or pretty easy. But yeah, you are going to see why that is, because it's kind of a tricky boss for early game Dark Souls. So I'm actually going to strengthen my I'm actually going to level my vitality. And I'm actually we can actually read the polo armor that we got, the Balder armor set. Armor worn by the knights of the ancient kingdom of Balder. It is made from thick iron plate. Balder was the homeland of the Night King Renda, but it came to ruin after a great many undead were spawned. So that pretty much tells us why the undead are a problem in the world of Dark Souls. Because once they are hollow, they are pretty much hordes of mindless enemies which form armies and lay siege on different kingdoms. The name Baldur, I would suggest, is a reference to the game series Baldur's Gate. I'm actually going to use the Talon Claw. Have a little bit more protection against the boss, or bosses I would say, because they are a duo. It's a duo fight. The first duo fight of Dark Souls 1. There was another duo fight in Demon Souls, which was pretty similar to it. The Tower of Latria, the second stage of Tower of Latria. And this one is pretty similar to that one, or I should say the one in Tower of Latria might be a little bit more difficult, or I'm not really sure if it is difficult or not, because I had more difficulties with the boss here than I had with the same boss in Demon Souls. So that's pretty funny. In my personal opinion, this boss is kind of harder, but lots of people are stuck with the boss in Demon Souls, the same boss in Demon Souls, so I wouldn't know personally. So, we did the ambush perfectly, and once we are done with the ambush, we climb over here. And climb the second ladder as well. That's actually a fog gate where it leads to a boss fight, so you should be ready for the boss fight here. And as you see here, our friend Solaire is a summon sign to actually help us in this boss fight. But since we do our bosses legit, and we might actually die because of it, we are going to do the boss alone, without summons. Actually going to try that. This is the boss. Pretty angry as well. So what we are going to attempt is to actually get his tail off, because once we have his tail off, we actually get a weapon out of his tail. But that might be kind of difficult, but don't worry, we actually have the weapon on Mr. Severus Snape, so that might be nice to read on part 3 if we don't get it right now. Okay. The other gargoyle should drop anytime. Once there you go. Once you have this gargoyle on low health, he actually summons a friend. You need to actually be careful of the fire spams, because they are pretty dangerous. Good thing is that our damage is pretty good right now. They can actually stun you when they are firing at you with the fires. When you are in certain locations, you can't get out of them because they actually spam that fire lots of times. That was a misplay from me. Bring an Astus. You see they spam them around. Also, be careful to not get. Also, be careful not to jump down from the church. You are actually going to die. You need to be careful about that one. Always keep in mind where both of them are. So they will now attempt to actually trap me at the bell tower. So don't get too close at the bell tower over there, they can actually trap you. You get messy. Actually hit them while they do the fire if you are quick enough. Now that the second gargoyle is around, it's not really easy to get the tail off from the first one. You can actually throw some bombs if you want. And there goes the tail. Fine. Pretty nice. So what you need to keep in mind is that when you get past this pocket the second time, the gargoyle is actually going to attack you instantly. You need to be careful with that one. I missed my opportunity to actually hit the tail. But it's not that bad if we don't get the tail right now. We have it on the other account. On the other character. There goes the first one. So once you have already beaten the first one, the boss fight is infinitely easier. And that was it. That was the boss fight. Took me actually 3 times to beat. And you must know I am pretty well used to play those types of games. And in all my playthroughs I have some difficulties against these gargoyles over here. Don't know why, don't know for what reason, but it always is the gargoyles. My first time doing them, I needed 30 tries to beat them, and I had a pretty bad frame rate and a pretty bad controller. But on my second character, I actually beat the gargoyles on my second try. But today, I needed 3 times to actually beat the gargoyles. So, with that said, I would say, don't be like me. Be better. Learn from my mistakes and don't do them yourself against the gargoyles and in general in this game. And with that actually cleared, I want to say thank you all so much for watching and see you next time.